Hello everyone. I'm in a lot of resin Facebook groups and I see all the time, what do I need to get started? What do I need to know to get started? What are some of the tools that I need to get started? So this video today is going to be what you need, what the difference is between the resins, and some tips and tricks to hopefully help you get started. It is a fun craft once you know what you're doing. So let me show you what it is. So if you decide to get into UV resin, there are a lot of starter sets on like Amazon. There's Sophie and Toffee. I think even Miniature Sweets has one, and I'll put some links below. I get a lot of my stuff from Amazon, but it can be overwhelming. The thing with UV resin is you can only use clear silicone molds like this. It does not work if you put it in one that's not see-through, alcohol inks. It doesn't do well being watered down. But if you want something that's fast and strong, kind of like a clear plastic glass on stuff, then you're going to want to use UV resin. Now there are a few different types. This one's just regular UV resin. It's Sophie and Toffee. And then there is this soft type. Now this was my first time using that the other day. And basically with the hard type, nothing moves, nothing breaks. Unless maybe if I threw it on the ground hard. But with the soft type, I made this and I can move it and it's not going to break. There's also another type called gummy resin. I haven't tried that yet. And then there's a thin type that's perfect for your bezels. Bezels are the keychains that I've done with the stuff inside. These are bezels. And you're going to want to use a bezel tape. So in order to use the UV resin, you have to have a UV light. This one is like, I think a 54 watt. They recommend 36 watt or higher. The stronger it is, the better it will cure. On Sophie and Toffee's boxes, they have like the starter box, and it comes with a UV flashlight. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's good for like if you need to do like a quick set so you can like move on to something else and combine many things. It's not very strong, but it's pretty good. This one is a USB plug-in. A lot of them just plug into the wall and you just put it under there. But you have to remember that UV resin gets very, very hot. So that brings me into some safety. Any type of resin you use, whether it's UV or A and B resin, epoxy, you have to have gloves. Nitrile gloves are the best. They have, most of them have like on the fingertips like extra grooves, so it feels like you can pick stuff up. It feels like a fingerprint, but you need at least to get nitrile. And then for any resin, you need yourself a respirator. This one's good for organic vapors. This one I think was like $30 at Lowe's or something, maybe 25. But you can get them on Amazon too. Now, when it comes to the UV resin, you can use these tiny little mixing cups. You've seen me use them before. And then you just, pour into your mold. The colors that you can use mica powder, which is the pigmented powder. It comes in tons of colors. Some of it glows in the dark. It's great. Or you use a transparent pigment dye. This one's yellow. This one works best with the UV resin because it's transparent clear. The tools you need is something to pick up the color, like this little spoon or this little metal spoon, or you can use a plastic spoon if that's what you have on hand. The more powder you put in, the more curing you're going to need, because that pigment powder really sucks up the UV resin and it takes a long time to cure. Then you need something to stir it with. You can use, that's sticky, you can use a popsicle stick, but I like this metal stirrer and I found a really easy way to clean it. The silicone ones have like a stirrer to it, but it's a little flimsy. So then you pour, and then sometimes you get bubbles. It happens. And if you can catch the bubbles before you cure it, you can either poke them out with this, or a toothpick. Put your product or your resin under the UV light, and wham bam, it's done. UV resin is not cheap. So if you want to use it for something like this is very big. I do not recommend it. Yes, it's clear, but it's going to take up probably a whole bunch of these small bottles. Now the UV resin does come in bigger bottles. This one is 200 grams. I think there's some that come in 500. And there's many brands. You can get whichever. All UV resin does work the same. Then you're going to need some hobby clippers. I got these for when I was doing models, because sometimes there's little pieces that do cure and you're like, oh, I didn't want that there. You can clip them off. But if you do clip them, the little bits are going to go flying. They always do. Then you can either get yourself a brush to paint on colors or whatever. That's optional. This came with a box. And then if you decide to do jewelry, you need some jewelry pliers. Michael's has some, Walmart, Amazon, it doesn't matter. You can get them on Sophie and Toffee, it doesn't matter. You will also need these little drills. This one's like a little hand drill. You could use, I guess, a nail Dremel. There's different Dremels. I have a regular Dremel for my bigger projects. With the UV resin, it does stink. So you need to make sure you have proper ventilation, a fan blowing it away. I turn on my air and then I turn on the fan on the AC. I'm directly under a vent and then it just blows it away. This soft type resin, it was my first time using it the other day. I didn't expect to smell the smell. This doesn't have a super strong odor, but that doesn't mean it's not dangerous. This stunk. Like, I don't even know. Like, before I cured it, it stunk. And then I started curing it. I was like, what is that smell? It was horrible. I don't know why. It says it's non-toxic. That doesn't mean anything. It was bad. It smelled like menthol mint on fire. So once you get into this hobby, especially if you start doing the UV resin, you'll be getting a bunch of molds. I had to buy a toolbox because I ran out of room. My favorite product to use is this crystal LED stuff. I've used it in a couple of videos. So let's say I want this ring to be a little shinier or to seal it in better. I put just a little bit of this on and spread it. This cures within 30 seconds. And I love it. It makes anything that's dull, shiny, and pretty. So I recommend getting crystal LED. Some molds are 2-part. This is not the same one. This is a 2-part mold. There's 2 separate parts. You can layer it together and then you combine them, or you can try to combine them first and then pour. And I failed doing it once. I still need to work on it. I received one recently of a jelly bean, and it's a 3D mold, so it's 2-part mold. Only they sent me the same part. I didn't get the female side, so they sent me the male side, which has the groove sticking up, and the female side is where the groove fits into, like a plug. So I had 2 male sides, so now I can't make jelly beans. But I could contact Sophie and Toffee if I wanted to. Another thing that I recommend is something to do your projects on. I use a silicone mat. That way I can just take it over to the garbage and peel off what I use. I put tape to get the glitter. I have used parchment paper and wax paper though. So if you don't want to go ahead and get these, then just get that and then you can just throw it away. So when you make some 3D molds, like the bottle I showed you, it will be hollow on the inside. So that's when you can use the shaker oil. You put it in there and it's very oily, and then you put like bits in it and then it like floats around. If you don't want to spend the extra money to get the shaker oil, baby oil works just as well. Now let's start talking about epoxy resin, A and B. For epoxy resin, I've said before, it's a ratio. This one's a 1-to-1, so it's equal parts, 30 milliliters to 30 milliliters. Some of them are 3-part, and there might be even a 4-part. Those get really confusing. I'm just kind of like, no. So with that, you do need to buy a digital kitchen scale, because you put your cup on there. I use real plastic cups, and you have to get the exact measurement. Some kits come with these. My problem is, I don't know why I want to say is there's numbers on them to tell you like how full it is, but I can barely see the number. So I don't like these. They're easier to clean, yes, but they're harder to see. So I just don't use them. I use the plastic cups, and I use popsicles to stir them. Now, with the epoxy, you can do more bigger things, like this marbled cat trinket dish. It does take 24 hours for this to cure, so you have to be patient. But with this, you can use alcohol inks and like get a Petri type dish effect. You can put dried flowers in there, glitter, anything, basically anything. I've even put a beetle in a triangle one. It didn't turn out great. It was my first time, but I did it. So this is where you would use your non-clear silicone molds or the really huge ones. This stuff though is messy, and the only way you can really get it off is wait for it to dry. And then you take like a little knife and you put it under, you try to ply it off. So I actually go into my garage to do this stuff because it just gets everywhere. And out there is a little more ventilated, but I still wear my gloves and the ventilator. It's easier to color, and I like doing the epoxy better, but I live in Florida, and going out into my garage for more than 5 minutes is basically an instant death. And to get this to mix well, you have to stir for 3 to 5 minutes. It depends on the brand. So me standing out there in 105-degree heat trying to make something is not going to work. Accidents do happen. You will get it on your skin, or get it all over the glove and you're going to touch everything. It happens. It happens to me all the time. Half the time I take off my glove and forget I still need another part to do. You need alcohol. Mine's 91% rubbing alcohol, and that will get it off. And then soap and water. Yes, I have some on here and it has dried. It's still a little sticky, but it's not coming on my finger. It happens. If you can catch it in time, you can just use a paper towel and wipe it off. If you get all over your table, well, grab a paper towel. You're gonna have to wipe it off and get as much off as you can. And then get your rubbing alcohol and just clean it as best as you can and rinse it off and hope that's that. I've gotten resin on my table. To trim like this has bubbles in it. This is where I would use sandpaper. I use 3 different grits, and then I would just sand this down because this hurts and it's very spiky. But this is where I use a Dremel. The shavings from the dried resin is very toxic. I absolutely wear my respirator while I am trimming these or shaving or even sanding, even a little bit. I don't want to breathe that in. If you decide to put photos or paper or whatever into resin, you need to do a sealant. You have to seal it because the resin will basically destroy it. So I always recommend Mod Podge. This one's outdoor. I have a different one for indoor. Mod Podge is life, okay? This stuff is amazing. And it dries within about 3 minutes. And there's quite a bit in there. It's very sticky. I'm not gonna keep going in there. And there's different kinds. There's like some that do different effects. I don't know where I went. Do different effects. Some has glitter, whatever. This is a good sealant. You put it over the picture, wait until it dries, flip that over, put it over again, let that dry. Now you can put it into the resin. You're going to make stuff that doesn't turn out the way you want, and that's okay. Don't be like, oh, I suck at this, I'm gonna give up. I can't tell you how many pieces I've had to throw away because they didn't turn out right. Throw them away. You know what you did wrong. You can learn what you did wrong and just prevent it from happening again. It's just that way. It happens. This craft is expensive. This hobby is time consuming. It can be dangerous. You can, for the epoxy, to get the bubbles out, you can either poke them out or you can use a lighter or a heat gun. You just really fast, just like this, over the bubbles and they pop. But sometimes you don't notice that it's touching like your silicone mold, and then you burn these and it will burn and you've ruined your mold for the next time. You have to buy a new one. So you have to be careful. The things that you can make with resin is endless. If you can figure out how to do it, you can do it. I've seen people make like bowls and stuff, and there is some food safe resin for, like, there are people who will do cutting boards and half of it's wood and half of it is resin. There is a food safe resin, but it's only safe after it's dried, and I think after so many days you have to wait. It's easy to develop an allergy to this due to the smell and the chemicals in it. I don't know all the chemicals in it. It doesn't tell me on this bottle what's in it, so I have no idea. That's when you look up the safety sheets for them. I don't know what's in this one either. There are some resins that are created differently to help with people who are sensitive or have an allergy, and I can link that as well. If you develop an allergy, you can continue to do this hobby / craft, but it's going to be a lot harder. Like if your eyes start itching over it, now you gotta wear goggles, respirator, and gloves. If you get on your skin and your skin starts to react to it, you gotta wear long sleeves, this and that. So you have to be careful with this stuff. I see so many people not using gloves on like YouTube and everything else. You have to have the gear. You have to have gloves. You have to have something on your face. These are musts. There is a new 2-part resin that came out. It's squishy gel though. And this is A and B as well. And it takes 24 hours. It'll make like squishy animals. I don't really know. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know what it smells like. But it says it will take 24 hours to cure and they'll be slightly sticky. That's it for my quick video. I just wanted to educate more people. You can comment. If you guys ever do comment questions, I will respond. Please like, please subscribe. I want people to see this craft. I want them to have more safety with this craft. This is my giant messy toolbox. I post every week, and it's going to be mainly in resin because that's just what people view more. So please like and subscribe. I said that already. I'm rambling. And get into this hobby, but do it safely. Have a great day.